Hey guys, thanks again for joining me on Sealed for Good today. I've got a guest with me, Chris Wiltshire from the Master Builders Association. He's the Development and Technical Manager for the South Australian Arm. Chris, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So Chris, you've been involved in a lot of discussion from the technical perspective with the NBA. And obviously this program goes out to all our customers that and followers that are interested in the waterproofing matters. At this point in time, this junction in time where you sit, you've been doing this for how long now in your role?
15 years.
Okay, so that's a great time lapse. So from that point of view, then, what is the things that you've seen that have changed over the last 10 years, for example, in the waterproofing space?
Yeah, sure. Look, I would say one of the big things that I've seen is the range of products available out there in the industry, specific to things like bond breakers.
Yep.
We all know bond breakers strengthen the weakest part of the corner of a wet area. There's been a bit of a change I've seen from your backing rod system, which is a class 1 type of system, to more of a elastomeric pre-moulded tape system, which is more of a class 3 system, and it's a better system for South Australia.
Yeah. Have you, in terms of, besides wet areas, are you seeing those trends change anywhere else? Like, is it external waterproofing changed at all? Underground waterproofing from where the NBA sit?
Yeah, look, I'd probably say not a lot. I think the big changes occurred, in the 80s and 90s to the standard. Over the last 10 to 15 years, I think the application has been very similar. The regulations and requirements are pretty much the same. But I think the thing that I've noticed is definitely the amount of products available out there. And the thing that I would say is you need to make sure that the product is compliant with the Australian standards.
Well, that's where my next question was going to ask you. Okay, it's great that there are more products and options out there, but how do you know if the products are compliant? How do you police that? We've seen around the country a whole raft of different options and contractors and even builders not knowing what it is they're using.
What's the right one? Yeah, absolutely. It's very simple. Just simply turn to the manufacturer's instructions or specifications. You'll find them listed in the company's website. That's the first point where I always turn to, and you should see common numbers referenced in there. So I would definitely stick your nose in the web, have a look at the manufacturer's instructions and go from there.
From the NBA's perspective, if you've got a manufacturer or a data sheet that's saying, well, compliant to AS 4858 and AS 4654, the NBA want to know more. I mean, how do you stop? Because we've seen a plethora of products come to the market.
Yeah.
Some are imported, some are made in
fraudulent certifications,
all the bullshit that we see that goes on at times. Yeah. So. And that nonsense really is where people are coming unstuck. So in that term, in terms of that, where's the NBA's position? Are you guys pushing along with the HIA and other bodies for some sort of certification? Like in New Zealand, I talk about brands a lot, and we do. It's a big market for us over there. But they've bottlenecked the ability to get products into the market because if you don't have brands, you don't pass go, you don't get your $200, and you can't move on. Here, it's just open.
Yeah.
And we're seeing from the leaking house syndrome New Zealand had many years ago, it's not a perfect model, but it's far better than what it was. We're seeing the opposite in Australia at the moment. It's actually just sort of spiralling out of control in some areas. So where do the NBA sit on that?
Look, we believe that products, first and foremost, need to be certified. And one of the big controlling measures are the people who are the regulatory bodies that are enforcing these issues. So your councils and your private certifiers. So it does boil down to what those organisations and those entities are requiring as part of their approval process. In theory, if there's a product that doesn't, or is just a little bit outside the norm, so outside what the National Construction Code requires, you do need to provide some form of verification that it will meet the standard. And really the obligation is not only on the contractor to make sure that the product is okay, but also on the regulatory bodies who allow for these products to enter the system to make sure that they are compliant.
So I'm going to hold you on two things on that because this will be a great discussion. So firstly, certifiers, there's a big piece on that at the moment. Where do they sit in the whole gamut of ensuring that we do get good outcomes? And at the moment, because we're seeing a lot, particularly out of Victoria, New South Wales, come to us our customers are needing certification, and the certifiers over there are asking the right questions. They want to see verification, they want to see test reports at times, and so that's starting to stop the fraudulent claims on some data sheets. But there are certifiers that are having trouble with getting insurance. And so where does that sit for the industry? Where would the MBA like to see it happen?
Look, insurance is a really hot topic in the private certification world. A lot of private certifiers are really struggling to get insurance at the moment. This has been brought on because of the combustible cladding issues that we've had over in England and also in Victoria. So insurers are actually pulling away from the market, which is leaving private certifiers exposed. What I would say for the people that use your product and people in general, just in general, is that if you are using the services of a certifier and that certifier goes into liquidation or goes bankrupt or is no longer existing, make sure that your own insurance policies cover everything that you've done. Specific to certification as well, engineering, all of that, because the problem is if the certifier that you use is no longer there, who's the next point of call? It's either the contractor or the prime contractor. So really make sure that all your ducks are in line and that your insurance policies are covering you to the best extent.
The MBA giving their members that sort of advice on what they should be doing?
Absolutely.
So you guys should be members of one of those bodies, because I believe that's important. But in terms of that though, then if you've got certifiers, that brings up the discussion we've been talking about a lot of late about warranties, because also insurance is limited for some contractors. Insurance, we've seen that, and they've got to understand what is a warranty. Because that, just like a fraudulent data sheet, we see warranties promising everything. They can even bloody solve the hole in the ozone layer, and that just won't stick. But the issue is, we're seeing builders. There's this relaxed attitude out there that obviously the cheapest price wins. This is a discussion that comes up a lot with the guys that watch this program, and we see the feeds that come through. Sure. Cheapest price wins. How do we get the builders to demand more, or want to demand more, so they understand where their risk lies, not just bumping onto the contractor, the tiler, the waterproofer, the landscape, whoever it might be? Yeah,
and that's one of the things which you see the old handball syndrome, not my problem. But in truth, be very wary if you take that attitude, because you might be exposed where you didn't think you were exposed. So to get to the point, I think builders' responsibilities, they have to actually take on those responsibilities. In terms of attitude change, I'm not really seeing an attitude change. I think it's kind of same old. We've done this for 10 years or 15 years, we won't have a problem. Ultimately, I think that responsibilities will need to be taken on all fronts. If the one thing that we learn from failures or issues in industry, we find that it's not just at one point, it's at 4 or 5 different points. So everybody's got to stand up and take responsibility, from the
design phase.
Designer. Definitely. That's a really big point. Obviously the regulatory body, any contractors and prime contractors as well. I think it's going to have to be a bit of a cultural change as well, that the prime contractor really must understand that it's sure, depending on how your contracts look, you might be able to get out of it, but in truth it's only hurting the industry.